Hi everyone, so we're going to be looking into creating this app. You can see here how to add users. So we could see the plus button here that allows us to add a user, and when I click add a user, I will say let's just say we want to add something like Frank, and then we have frank@test.com, and then we want to save the user to the .json file. So we will go through how we can set up a JSON file and update the JSON file. And you can see here we got Frank added, and then we got all these other users. We can click on the user. We'll put number 2 beside him so we can update it. Let's say he's not active anymore. We'll save changes. And you can see here it's been updated now, and it's saved here in the current users. And we can see here we got show current file. So it'll show you all the information about each of the users. Reload from JSON if there's any type of update. Again, another button here to add a user. Debug info if there's any. And here, if we slide it over, we can slide the individual users, and we can either click on this edit as well here. And then, or what we could do is we could, let's say we want to delete the user. So here, Frank, I want to delete him from here. Okay, now the user is gone, and you can see here it tallies it at the top. We have 5 users. It always dynamically updates as needed, and it's writing to this JSON file called users.json. So let's look into how we can create this app. First thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Xcode. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to search for Xcode. And you're going to get this pop-up here, and I'll create a new project. And this new project, I'll just call it, so here, app, next, and I'll call this JSON data. So it's just an example project we're going to be making, and I'll just call it JSON data. That's fine. SwiftUI, Swift, great. And yeah, everything is Swift. Next, we'll save it on our desktop, create. Perfect. So now we got the base template here set up for our project. Now we just need to modify some of these files and add some files. So right here, it looks like this one is loading. I'm not sure why, but oh, okay, it's still up here preparing the iPhone. So you can see here at the top right, there's a little circle there. It's loading, and this content view will just show a preview of what's generated here. So there we go, globe, hello world. Nice. So let's remove some of this stuff. I'm actually going to get rid of this preview mode because we actually don't need it. What we will need is to run the application. The run is right here. So if I click on run here, it should open the iPhone 16 Pro. I'm just going to make it run just to make sure everything looks okay. So there you go. You can see the project open up here. Well, the template here, and there we go, hello world. Perfect. So let's first create the data folder. So in our JSON data, so we have this, we're going to create a folder inside here, and we're going to call it data. And we'll make a brand new file, and we'll call it users.json. And I need to make sure, delete that. I need to make sure that this is labeled properly. Okay, I'm just gonna delete it. Then new file, users.json. Get rid of that ending part. There we go. So now it's a JSON file, and I'm going to just be setting up some data. I'll just set up two types of data in here. I already am just going to copy and paste it in here because it's done. So one for John Doe and one for Jane Smith. And you can see here it has ID of 1, ID of 2. So each person that's added will have an ID, and it's going to be incremented by 1. So it's always going to be unique. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to set up the models. So here in JSON data, I will also create a new folder called models. And if I'm going too fast, just, you could always pause the video and everything. New folder, models. And I will make a new file, and it's called user.swift. Okay, I already has Swift there. Perfect. And what I'll do is I will import foundation and struct user identifiable, codable, equitable. So we're going to have some values here of ID, which will be integer. We'll also have a name, which is type string, and then an email, which is type string, and then let is active, which is Boolean, so either be true or false. And then here we'll set up the constructor here for ID of int name. So here we go. Name string, email string, active bool. And then we'll make sure we add these selfs as well. Name, email, active. Okay, perfect. So now that that constructor is set up, it's going to make sure that it matches these data types for each of the items. And in our services, we're going to have two really important folders, which are services and views. So here, let's make the services folder first. Services. And we'll make a new file, and it'll be DataService.swift. Okay, so we'll import the foundation, and we'll have a class of DataService. So we have shared data service and then private file name. So we want this private just because we're going to read a lot of the file names here just within this file. So users.json, which we have set up right here in our data folder. And then we have to mark the exact project path. So I put this under project JSON path equals. So here you have to navigate to your users and then developer, resources, desktop, data, test. Well, this one is going to be called JSON data, and it's our data folder, and then our users.json. And then we also want to check if we can access project file. So here we can access project file, and we're going to check, we're going to have it a Boolean. Return file manager dot file exists. So at path, which is from our project JSON path that we set up right above there, and file manager is writable file. So at path. So is writable. Let me just check here. File manager. File manager dot default. Okay. So there seems to be an issue here. Make sure everything is spelled correctly. Let file manager equals file manager dot default. Return file manager dot file exists at path project JSON path and file manager. Maybe it's okay. Let me just copy and paste this, just this part. So it must be some sort of spacing issue or something, but this is what the correct one should be. So we're trying to see if we can write at a file, and then we need another function load from project JSON, and here we'll say it's a function to load users from project, and we're going to be getting the users, which will not be a question mark. It will always we'll be able to get something or return something. So let file manager equals file manager dot default, and then guard file manager dot file exists at path project JSON path. Else, if we cannot get it, we'll say a message here. So project JSON file cannot be found at project JSON path. So this is how we write within the string. We pass a value, and then if there's nothing, we can just return empty brackets. And here, still within the function, we'll set a do and then a catch. Perfect. And now we need to write some of the logic here. Okay, so now what we need to do is just fill this out. So let's go in here, set up all of our variables, and we are going to set up our URL, so a file URL with the path. So we're taking that project JSON, and then we're going to try the data contents of the URL, and then we will decode the items that are in the JSON file. And let's just also to see, we'll print it that we can load the items from the JSON file, and then if we can, we will return the users. And if there's an error, we can just put in the catch here, and we'll say there's an error that's loading the projects, and we can just return an empty array here. And then let's set up the next function here. So that was to load the users from the project, and now we're going to set up a mark to save to project JSON. It's to replace the file. So when we're saving the JSON, we don't want to create a new JSON file, we just want to replace the JSON file that we currently have. And let's set up the function first. So save users to project, and we'll close that bracket there so we don't forget. And then let's try adding a save print here just to let us know that it's happening now. And then we'll go to our file manager. This is the method that will help us. And we're going to set up an if statement here to see if there's anything within the file. If there is, since we put an exclamation mark there, it means, okay, we're checking if there's a file, but opposite if there's no file. So if there's nothing, we'll say file does not exist, and if we return, then it will end this function right away. And if there is something, it will pass by here. So now we can do something, and then we can catch as well while we're doing something. We'll see if there's any errors that show up as well. We'll try to catch it if there's any errors. So we'll do a JSON encoder, and we will go through that JSON file we created, and we'll get some sort of formatting for the data that we're going to be grabbing. We will try to encode that data so then we can, we're using that project JSON path. We're just going to have that URL ready for us. And then here we're going to print, replace the file content. So this replaces the file content, So based on the URL, wherever we're grabbing the data, we're also going to be writing to that same file name as well. And we'll say here that we have successfully updated the user.json, and we'll also have a summary. So print summary of changes, and we will map through and loop through all of the data, and we're going to, based on whatever it's looping through, there's commas, so it needs to know what the separators are, and we'll be able to see it. We'll be able to know what new items are based on the commas at the end of each of the rows. So you can see here there's a comma. So it's just reading whenever there's a comma, it knows that it's the end. And if we're able to print the summary of changes, then we know that we have successfully done this. And now here in the catch, if there's any errors, we will just return a message in our terminal, and it will just tell us that there's an error saving or updating the file that we've created. And now that we have set up the save user project, now we'll do the add user. So I'll add a comment here. Mark for CRUD operations. So here we will do a function to add user, and here we'll have underscore user, and it'll be a type bool. So what we're going to do is we're going to be just adding a print statement just to make sure that we're able to grab the username and the user ID. We'll set up some variables here to load users from the project, and we will want to append the user. So based on the users that we're going to have, we want to append it to the users and see if, next line here, we want to save the users to the project as well. So based on if there is a success, we'll have, if the success is true, then we will print user has been added successfully, and then we will return the success. And here we're just returning success as either true or false because we have a boolean here, which means we're only returning true or false. And now we want to delete the user, so we want to add a function to delete user with ID, and it's a type integer, and what we'll return is a bool. And then we want to be able to again load the users from our project, which is the JSON file, and the load users from project, if we go up here, load users from project, it's just using this method we set up here, which is going to be looking through the JSON that we have set up here in our data folder. And when we delete the user, what's going to do is it's going to just count the number of users that there are, original count, and then users, it's going to remove all of them, and what it'll do is based on the user count, we will want to set up some sort of if statement condition. So if the original count is greater than the user count, then what we want to do, greater or equal to, then it's, so here if the original count is greater, we're going to want to do this if statement. So we want to save users to our project, and save users to project is right here, this method we've set up. It's just going to rewrite items to the JSON file that has been set up, and if there's a success and it returns a true, then it's going to print the user's been deleted successfully because we updated the JSON. We'll return the success, but if there's some issue or something, it'll just return false and it won't do the correct thing. And what we want to do here now is we return false, and let me just check here. Okay, we got too much brackets here, so let me just save. I'm gonna format this better because it looks difficult to read. There we go. That looks much easier to read. And I think I will fix this as well here, just so it's nicely indented. It's going to be much better. And what we're going to do now is we want to actually set up another function, which is to update the users. So let's say here we want to, let's see here, if we have a function which is to update user, then we want user, it's going to be of type bool, and then we're going to just be printing just to make sure we're able to grab the information. And then we want to load the user from the project, so whatever's in the JSON file. And now this is where we want to set up our if statement here. And I'm just going to close it right away so we don't have that issue with the bracket. So we're trying to find the index. So users first index. So we're going to go to each of them and we're going to see, okay, if this is, so we're starting at the index, the first index, and eventually it's going to be the old user, and then the user where whatever index we're at is going to be equal to the user. So what we're doing is here from the users of the project, we're looking at whatever index it's at, and then we're looking at, trying to see what the ID of that person is at that specific index, if it matches at that position here at the first index. And so what's going to happen is whatever is at that index, it's going to update it with user, and we're going to print if there's any changes that happened, and then if it is the old username does not equal to that new username that has been added, then we'll just say that the name has been changed. But then here again, we'll set up another statement here. If the old user email does not equal to the new user email, then we'll print this statement just to let them know that it has been updated as well. And then also here, the old user, we're gonna make a ternary operator here that just checks to see if the old user was active, if there's nothing changed. If it does not equal the same thing, then we're going to print what the status is, what the older version, whatever the older user was, if they're active or inactive, and then we'll get the new user and then display whether they're active or not. Next, we will just have a statement here. We have too many brackets. And then we want to save the users now to the project. And if it's been saved successfully, then we will print this to let them know that the user has been successfully updated. And then we will return a success message that everything has been returned. But of course, if there's an issue, then we will we'll print a message that the user has not been found, and then we will return a false. And then lastly, we want to also add one more function. The last function we're going to be adding is called mark. It is a utility function. So here we want to get a function that is get file info, and it's of type string. And what we want to do is we want to first load the users. So this is for the buttons down below that will give us information based on a pop-up that will show up later. I'll show you later again. So it'll just show what the current state is, the total number of users, and the user list. So it will display, we'll set up a for loop that'll go through each of the users here, and it will go through the ID, email, status, and then just add an extra space here or go on the next line, so then it doesn't get crammed if there's like multiple items here. And then we'll just return the info. So way over here, we want to spell this correctly, F-U-N-C for function, and then now we have this one all set up. All we have to do now is set up the views. So for the views, we're going to have to make another folder here. So I'm going to new folder, view, and then in our view, we want to create a file, and then we'll call it contentview.swift. And here we'll just import SwiftUI. We'll add a struct which has content view of type view. So here the body will have some view, and it'll be users list view. So it's that method that we've set up. Did we set this up yet? No, we did not set it up, so there will be an error. And what we want to do is set up one more structure. So I'll be struct content view previews. So here we got preview provider, and we'll have a static var previews some view content view. Okay, perfect. So we'll come back to this error shortly and we'll talk about it. We'll just create one more file here of edit user view .swift. Just watch the spelling. It's user, not users. And then here we'll want to import Swift again. And then we'll add a struct of edit user view. And we're going to have a few different items here, which I'll copy over. And I'll just align it properly. So we have an environment, dismiss user, onSave, which is type void, and then we'll have the name email and is active, and then we'll set up a constructor. So this constructor, I'm going to try to see if I can okay, I think I got it. There we go. So now we have constructor here, which is setting up the user, onSave, name, email, is active, and then we'll just print if it's been initialized here. And then in our body, we will just have some sort of view, which will have a form. So this form will then have some different sections here. So a section header, which is text field, some user information. So the name, name fields, text field, email, and some other section headers for the status, user ID, and save changes. And I'm just going to properly format this as well. There we go. Good. Just one more. There we go. And I think that will be it. That'll be it for that section. And at the next line, we just want to put some formatting here. We want to navigate the title. We want to just save some of the changes that we're making. So the navigation bar items, if there's a cancel or edit cancel, we want to dismiss any buttons. We want to save any items. So here, save changes. We just need to make the function for this as well, just right underneath. So let me just set that up. It should be under here. Want to save this. There we go. So save any changes that are happening. For the user ID, if there's new name, email, or is active has changed. we're just going to get rid of any white spacing, if there's any at the beginning or end, and we will just use onSave in order to update the user. OnSave user. Okay, perfect. So now that we have this user, so let me just check something on save. Oh, okay. So now that we got that part done, we just need to set up the user list view. Let's set up the last file that we need to set up, which is the user list view. So here in the views, I'm just going to type in users list view .swift, and then I will import SwiftUI, and then I'm just going to add a struct for users list view type view, and then we will need to set up a bunch of states at the beginning. There we go. And then we will also set up something for debugging purposes. And then here, let's set up a, for the body, some view. And we'll do the navigation view. Navigation view, and we'll have a V stack, vertical stack. And here, let's set up some debugging things. So here, debugging info. So if debugging info is empty, but it's not opposite, so then we will print out any of that stuff. And then we'll also have a horizontal stack set up. So beside it, in one line beside one another, it will also print out a checkmark circle fill, writing to users.json. So it's just letting them know that we were able to write to the JSON file. And I'm also going to set up a list here. So here in the list, let me just double check here. This is actually going to be a very big one here. List. So under this padding, we also have a very long list, which I will go over. Just double check it's aligned properly. There we go. So we have some current user. If the user is empty, there's no users yet. Or if there is users, then what we'll do is we'll do a for each, and then we will loop through each of the items in the JSON file, and we'll just make sure that we're able to tap each of the users. We can swipe them, so there'll be a button. So we can either, when we swipe left, we can either delete it or we can edit the user. And then also here, if user is active, we can also adjust this as well. And then here, we'll want to check to see if at the bottom, we'll see if there's any current file status. We can reload the JSON file, we can add a new user, and then there's also a debug button at the bottom of the screen. And what we can do next is here after this bracket, we're just going to add some stylization here. And navigation title for this page, which is user manager. And then the toolbar item will be showing the add user. there's an image of a plus, just so we can add user with that plus button. We can also click a button to reload the users, and that should be good. Next, we'll just have a dot sheet. So here I'm going to have to paste this entire thing here as well. So there's some sort of sheet, which is, okay, when we do this, then we're going to move the sheet outside the navigation view. So there's going to be like a pop-up kind of thing that slides up, and then add user sheet. If it's dismissed, we can add a new user. So for adding someone, showing add user, then something's going to slide up. We can add a name, an email. We can save that to the user JSON file. And then once we have added this, we can also set up something else, which is another sheet. So let me just copy this here, and I'll paste this right here. So here we can see showing edit user, navigation, view. Let me just move that over. So if we want to edit the user, we can update the user in the update user method. So if user is user to edit, if else, then we can double check there's no user selected. We can close it, and this is like if you can't open the, we're not going to open the user at all, we can't open it. We can say a status okay, so showing a status. We can set up a status message if there's any problems or messages, and then we can show edit user, so we can edit the screen showing, edit sheet showing, or user to edit. We can try to see if we can edit those things. And here what we're going to do is down below here we'll also have a user row view. So if I show you this part here, there is a user row view, and this just shows what's going on with the users that are listed. So user in this view will have some sort of circle. We'll see if this one's active or not. So you'll see a circle beside the person's name, and there'll be the email underneath, vertical stack, and then horizontal stack will also see the user ID, if they're active or inactive, and we're setting up some colors here. And then here the chevron right is it'll just kind of show the user can swipe or click on it. And we will also here set up a few more methods here. So we will go right here. So mark the data function. There we go. Mark data function. If there's load users, let's see here. Body, sum view. Okay. So let's see, where does this bracket end? Let's see, is it right here? Okay, so there we go. It's right here. So we could load the user. So we're just grabbing the users from our JSON, from our project, and it's just going to count the number of users. We can delete the user just by, so print whatever username we're trying to find, and then we will find that person with that user ID, and then the users will remove that person with that ID, and then we'll just show a status of deleted that name from users.json. And then next what we'll do is we will set up another method here to toggle user active. So this is just to see, like, we're grabbing their information, and then we will see wherever that user is, that name now has been changed to either active or inactive. So we're just changing the status there, and then we can add another method here, which is to edit the user. So if we go here to edit, I'm just going to fix this indenting here. There we go. And then we want to edit users, so based on whatever name and ID, we'll edit that user. We're going to try change it right now. So about to show edit sheet, we're going to see whatever name we're trying to edit. And here what we're going to do is we're going to also update the user. So once that has been changed, we're editing and we want to update the user now. So we're updating the user, and then we will, wherever it's indexed at, we're going to check to see, and then we will update that in the users.json. And then lastly, or two more things, we can add a new user as well. So if we go here, add new user, now here we can see that we are adding the user. We're looping through all of the JSON data, and we're going to map through it. We're going to see if there's any extra white spacing, we'll remove it, and we will then push over whatever new data that we want to append to that new user. And then lastly, we will show the status, so the message, if there's any type of message, and if the message has been posted. So I got some errors here. I think it's the brackets. I'm just going to fix all the brackets here in my project. Type DataService has no member, update user. Okay, update user. Update user, this should be capital U. There we go. There we go. Now that error has disappeared. And was this on change was directed, is depreciated. Oh, okay. We'll see if we'll look into that a little bit later. Let's first see if this project actually runs right now. So we might have an error here. I'm just going to try running. Build failed to send event app launcher for CA event type. Okay, so let me just check to see what's going on here. There's an error somewhere. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, I see what the problem is. So here at the top, when you click on that red X right there to show the errors, Let me see if I can zoom in. I can't zoom in here, but it says here the file name content view is used twice. So you can't use this word content view 2 times since I put it in the view folder. It's also outside here, which I actually have to delete. So I'm going to delete this because we don't need it anymore. The JSON data out there, we don't need anymore. Or let me just see, JSON data app. Oh, we need that. Okay. And then this assets, we can just delete because I'm not using that at all. So we need this, but it's just that content view because we had 2 of them. It was confusing our project because that's kind of like how it starts up everything. I'm just going to run it one more time. Let me just end and then run it one more time. There we go. It's running. I'm just going to remove this preview. I don't want that. And nice. So we got some stuff right here. So users, no users yet. So I think there is some sort of typo somewhere. So it says failed to open. So there must be a typo somewhere, probably in our data service. So let me just go back here. Let me try resaving. There we go. So now it's back. Just make sure to double check all of the spelling. It was probably like this data path here that was the JSON path that was having some sort of typo issues. And you can see here that we got all of the users set up, and if I swipe one of them, you can see delete or edit. If I edit, you can see this thing pops up. If I click victory 2 and change that to, let's say, victory3 at test.com, and I want that active now, save, there we go. So now it's been updated, and if I go back over here, so this part should have been updated too. If we go back to Jane Smith, save, okay. So there's another issue somewhere. User to edit. So something in the edit user, there must be an issue. Let me just try updating this page here. If I go back to users, I'm just going to stop running this and then rerun it just to make sure. So there's still an error. So it's loading 5 users, but I only have 2 users, which is very interesting. That should not happen at all. I'm going to see if I can Okay, let me just see the user list view. Okay, I'm going to stop running this. I'm going to rerun it. I'm going to reload. It has 5 users, but there's nothing updated here. User. Let me take a look what's going on. Okay, so I just had to fix a few things here. I'm actually going to just save this code on GitHub, and then you guys could check it out. Just because I was having some issues for some reason with the data file in the JSON file. I had to separate the user list view into this edit user view to make the file a little bit shorter So it contains like the name, email, and active user. If it can, it'll grab that information and it'll display it as each individual item, and then they can swipe left and they can edit it, and then this one will allow the users to edit and save the user information. And then here the user list view is now a bit shorter. I will leave this all on the GitHub repository. The link is down below in the description and you can check it out. Let me try running this application so you could see that it does work. And we'll see here, it's gonna be loading up. Let's go to the data. So here we got all of our data that we have. Let's delete this. Now you can see it updates right away. We can click on this. Please select a user to edit. Let me click on it. Okay, let me try the other one. Okay, save that. That should change to false. There we go, change from true to false. And then here, if I slide it, I could delete. All right, I deleted that user. Xander could make it inactive. That changes to false. There we go, perfect. And then I'll just put a number here. So Xander 2 and 2, save changes. Nice, so it updates all this information, it deletes the user, edits the user. We can show the file to see all the information, where the JSON is located, reload the JSON if we want to, add a new user. Again, there's a button down below. Could reload up at the top. You can see the JSON file again, where it's writing to. So hopefully this little code snippet will help. I'm gonna again leave the link to GitHub. If you like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe.